Hello everyone and welcome to this video, which is in our Reengineering the Chess Classic series. I'm Grandmaster Matthew Sadler and we are taking a look at an amazing game with some amazing engine discoveries. In the game, Carl Schlechter against Kurt von Bardeleben, Hastings International 1895. Now, the name of von Bardeleben may be familiar to you because Hastings 1895, that was the tournament where Steinitz played a very well-known, beautiful combination against von Bardeleben. And, well, his opponent, instead of resigning, simply left the hall, leaving Steinitz to demonstrate to spectators what the finish would have been. And well, that's kind of what he's known for, really. But actually von Bardeleben was a pretty strong player, and Hastings was actually one of his best ever tournaments. He ended up 7th, but he was yeah, I don't know, I mean, after about 7-8 rounds he was in the top places. And yeah, it's only a little series of losses just in the middle of the tournament, one of which was against Steinitz, that pushed him back somewhat. But he beat Emanuel Lasker, so you know, he obviously was not a bad player at all. The other thing that I knew about him, and this comes from reading Edward Lasker's fantastic Chess Secrets I Learned from the Masters, was that he was, well, according to Edward Lasker, he was supposed to have married many times, simply because his wives actually wanted to have his aristocratic name, and yeah, so they were willing to marry him just for that. Yeah, it seemed like a bit of a strange story, but I saw on Edward Winter's page that Richard Forster, chess grandmaster, I think, and also a historian, he'd found the marriage records and found that von Bardeleben had indeed been married 9 times. So it could well be that this is one of the Edward Lasker stories that actually has some truth to it. But anyway, let's get back to the game. How did it go? Well, actually the opening is kind of familiar to us. So e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6, bishop b5, a6, bishop a4, knight f6, knight c3. Yeah, I will actually see this. I've got some videos coming up on some other Carl Schlechter games, and well, as we'll see, you know, there really was a big debate, you know, at around this time about whether white should be putting this knight on c3 or not. Yeah, advantages and disadvantages. I think you know, the modern conclusion is that the knight is better placed on d2 rather than c3. But yeah, certainly Tarash thought that the knight was that it was better to play the knight to c3 rather than d2. So von Bardeleben played bishop c5, which is yeah, interesting move, and then knight takes c5, knight takes c5, d4, and you may be getting a sense of déjà vu if you follow this channel assiduously, because we got something very similar in a game between Janowski and Emanuel Lasker. Fantastic game again, which Janowski should have won but ended up losing. So bishop d6 played, castles from black. b5 is what the engines want first of all, but it makes very little difference. Castles is a very reasonable move. And now this lovely idea, f4, just something that I when I first saw as a child, I thought it was so amazing, really. The idea of just sacrificing on e5, getting the fork, and then sort of doubling down on the next fork somehow with f4. It's not actually that amazing for white. Actually, the engines, I think, are already claiming a tiny little advantage for black here. So well, you can imagine somehow, but it is a very beautiful idea. So knight c4 was played by von Bardeleben. That's a very good reaction. Yeah, in slightly different situation, Lasker had played the knight to g6, but playing the knight to c4 is a good aggressive attempt. You know, making use of the fact that you've thrown in a6, bishop a4, so the c4 square is free. And after e5, then bishop e7. And I mean, what's the point? Why would the engines like black in such a position? It's really to do with the fact that you've played this move f4. It blocks in the dark squared bishop, and it weakens e3, and also weakens d4 a little bit. Also, this bishop is a little bit out of play. Actually, this knight on c4 is really good. You can't chase it away with b3 because then the bishop would be trapped. So basically, I mean, white's got his piece back, but hasn't really achieved any worthwhile gains at all. So after e takes f6, bishop f6, here Schlechter took a very risky decision. I do wonder what got into him there, really. I mean, something like knight e4, is really the natural move here, and this is what the engines want, and I think it's more or less the first natural move that you'd play. I mean, you're just preparing yourself to play c3 and bishop c2. You're attacking the bishop on f6. This knight can also find a decent square round on the king side, g3, even g5, who knows. So that should be pretty that feels like it should be a little bit better somehow. I mean, the engines suggest this: knight c5, bishop d5, c3, d6, knight d3, rook e8, and black's obviously very comfortable there, but feels like white's just a little bit more organized somehow. You can try and swap off the rooks. A4 takes b5. It just makes this pressure of the knight on b2 a lot less worrying. If you've already exchanged off the rooks, you don't have this passive piece. And you can also try and move the bishop maybe and play b3 and just chase away the knight. Black's completely fine here, of course, but that seems a little bit better. d5. A little bit risky. I mean, I guess that what Schlechter wanted was, well, to stop black from playing d5 himself, and also to block the a8 h1 diagonal if black goes b5 and bishop b7. But it's always the same when you're facing the opponent's two bishops. You close one diagonal, the other diagonal is open, and this one gets open. And of course, the knight's attacking b2. There are dark squares, weak or sensitive dark squares all over the place. Not easy. And von Bardeleben played one of the main engine moves here. Just played c5. This is quite nice. I mean, the idea basically is that we're just going to go b5, and we're going to end up trying to trap this bishop. The bishop comes back to b3. Maybe the knight can just retreat, and then you just play c4. So this is going to be this is looking already rather awkward for white. And Schlechter's got this reputation of being drawish, solid, and all of that, but it's actually completely far from the truth. I think he was a tough defender, so he defended very well, and I think made some draws that he probably shouldn't have been able to make. But I suppose he had a tendency at times to take draws, maybe a touch early, but in principle he was a very aggressive player. And this move, the way that he plays it, is definitely showing that. I mean, d takes c6 was the engine preference, but even here, black's got a very nice position. I mean, this lovely pressure against b2. We got the open b file. I mean, this was scoring some wins for black as well in my Stockfish Dragon games. So you need a pretty serious advantage for that to happen. But Schlechter played knight e4, and after bishop b2, he didn't sort of bail out with rook b1 and just sort of say hey, that's a pawn. No, his idea was really just to take and go queen h5. I thought, really, when I saw it? But it's actually a very fine idea, and actually in this position the engines are screaming out that there's one move that has to be played, and it's not knight takes a4, bizarrely enough. They want to play the move f5 here. Why? You'll see why after the next few moves, but the idea basically to try and block the king side, and after knight g5 we go h6. Now the funny thing about it is that black is actually no longer winning a piece in this position, because we can go bishop b3, very risky for black to take this one, and when you try and trap this bishop, it's quite funny. I go rook e1, takes, and of course this knight is not getting out. However, it will take white some effort to get it back. So this is one of the engine lines: b5, rook b1, queen b6 check, king h1, bishop b7. Now we really are most likely seriously threatening to take there. So knight f3, bishop d5, rook b2, rook c8, and well, black's a pawn up. Great bishop against the white knight. Dragon beat stockfish quite convincingly from this position. So actually, you know, what this is actually telling us is that this piece sacrifice of Schlechter has a lot of merit, a lot of point, and well, there's one move, f5, that you have to play, but well, then actually you've got to give up this dream of winning a piece, which is, you know, that's always the most difficult thing in chess. You know, you can often, you know, you've got this way up between a course of action where you could win a lot of material, or you know, you could keep your position safe, and it's always a question of proportionality. You know, I mean, you know, okay, I can stay safe, but is that enough, or am I just giving up too much? You know, and yeah, knight takes a4. I'm pretty sure I would be taking that piece. But Schlechter played f5, looking for f6, and von Bardeleben answered with f6. And here, this is an absolutely crucial moment. Now, Schlechter played the move rook f4, which is, to be honest, I mean, it's a good-looking human move. What is that doing? Well, the rook's looking to come over either to g4 or h4. It's also eyeing this knight on a4. So, you know, Schlechter's clearly thinking, oh, you know, a knight discovery, and I could pick up this knight somehow. And also, you know, White's idea may well be to double on the e file, and then, well, the rook's already, you know, ready for that. It's an excellent multi-purpose move. You know, I can't fault it, but it's not the best by any means. Because what the engine's saying, you know, I'm just slightly surprised that they're d6, and then we're on to 0.00. So they're just saying, yeah, absolutely equal, no problem. So what on earth is going on here? Well, the point about these moves like d6 is that it really cuts the black position in half. First of all, you know, it stops the queen from coming to e7. It stops black from going d6 and developing the bishop. So yeah, I mean, if black wants to develop the bishop, black's going to have to, you know, develop like this. And of course, you know, the b7 square is a pretty good square for the bishop. But you know, when you go d6 and you play bishop d7, the bishop's coming closer to the king. With b5, bishop b7, the bishop's moving away from the king. So there's no, you know, defensive pieces aren't moving closer towards the king. The other thing about this move on d6 is that, yeah, it's giving white a square on e7 for the rook, a big invasion square, and that's incredibly important. So yeah, we're going to see that in loads and loads of lines. The other thing is, of course, is that just for a little while, this extra black piece, this knight on a4, is not doing anything, so it's virtually irrelevant. And of course, you know, if you're looking at the potential white pieces that can get involved quite quickly in attack against the black king, that's actually a material imbalance in white's favour. So yeah, you know, I mean, there's a lot going on here, a lot that might give black some pause for thought. So what are we doing? I think the first thing to do is, I mean, the engines basically had 3 moves that they considered, 2 virtually the same and one other. I'll just show you a couple of other ideas though, because it's quite interesting. I mean, queen e8 was the move that really you know, jumps out at me. Let's try and swap off the queens. I'll attack the knight at the same time. Maybe drive the queen back. Then you can't go a rook f4 to h4 like Schlechter tried. But here the engines want this stunning idea. Takes, check. Now you can't go rook f6 because of queen takes e8. So g takes f6 and then queen g4 check. King h8 and rook e1. And here you see the point of going d6. You also see the point of not having played rook f4 like Schlechter, because it actually enables you to play the rook to e1 like this without needing the queen's assistance. And after queen e7, rook e7, then yeah, the engines are not at all happy about what's happening. I mean, you can't go passive. I mean, I just come round to h5, I think, and then start playing like this, and I'm just going to mate you completely. So the engines think that they need to give up the queen, but actually this move queen e4. I mean, you played b5 to protect the knight on a4. That's necessary because there was a queen along the 4th rank. But here, after you're threatening rook takes a8, and if you go bishop rook e8, then I've got queen e8 check, which is going to be very, very unpleasant. We're going to follow up with rook f3 to g3 when you go king g7. So actually, the best the engines have is bishop b7, queen b7. But okay, you know, it's clear that that white is winning this simply. Just a queen and you know, a few pawns, and it's going to be more against the rook and knight. So yeah, I mean, this absolutely stunning shot is the refutation of queen e8, and that certainly, I mean, you know, when you're in a practical game and you suddenly realize that something like that is possible, it probably makes you reconsider what your evaluation of the position is. I mean, I might assume, okay, I'm a piece down, but I'm sure that some accurate moves here and I'll make it. Then you see something like queen e8 and you think, oh my goodness, this is not quite what I thought. So what are the moves that the engine wants to play? Well, knight b2 is one idea. I think this was Leela's first choice, actually. It's got a similar idea to something like knight b6, but the problem with knight b6 is that it kind of blocks in the black queen side, so you absolutely have to move that knight if you want to do anything at all. And actually, this gives white an extra possibility of coming in with rook f3 against the black king side. So if you want to play this idea, then knight b2 is the best, and the idea is simply that you want to come around c4 into e5 here, and you know, give your king some strengthening there. Now if you go something like rook f3 here, then the engines were playing this move again, queen h4, rook f7. Now sorry, what you notice here is that because I played rook f3, then after takes, I'm not going to be able to bring my rook to e1 easily. So I have to play a move like queen h4 here to give me the possibility of rook e1. Still very dangerous, but not quite as good somehow. And after rook, here black plays rook f7, rook e1, queen f8, covering e7, rook fe3 played by white, and then the engines just want to give up material like this. And here Stockfish was beating Leela as black here. Not the latest version of Leela at the moment, so you know, it's maybe not. And yeah, the machines on which I run that is decent for Leela, but it's you know, obviously a sort of a hardware imbalance in favour of Stockfish. But still, you know, was winning this, and well, actually Leela beat Stockfish as black from similar positions. So this is not what you have to do. I mean, after knight b2, I go rook e1, knight c4, rook f3 now. You can't play queen e8, of course, because I've got knight takes f6. Knight e5, rook h3, hitting the pawn, h6, and then rook g3. And this is one of the most crucial lines of this whole sacrifice. And black's got to be careful here about where the king goes. If you play the king to h7, it feels natural in a way to put the king to h7 because there's no bishops on that diagonal, and you are protecting the h6 pawn. So if something like rook g6 takes h6 happened, the king's protecting it. But it looks like this is actually quite a big error. We go rook e3, c4, trying to get the queen some escape there. King h1, rook f7, and then h4. Yeah, I wouldn't be guessing these moves at all. I mean, this is just Stockfish genius, because Leela isn't getting this either. The idea is, one idea here is simply knight to g5, hg, fg, hg, and then well, you're just converting your knight into a pawn on g5 in order to be able to break through. The other idea is that if you do something like rook f8, then rook g6 is played. We're threatening all sorts of things now. Rook g3, stuff like knight f6, and rook takes e5 after. And if you take king g8, so if you go king h8, I go knight g5, takes, and rook e7, rook g8, and then f6, I guess, queen f8, hg. Yep, b5, g takes h. The key point is queen f6. I've got h takes g7 there. And well, it's all finished. Let's just show you the line then. Takes, check, takes, and queen h5, and black has to resign. So that's one idea. And then the really stunning move, the one that really gave me a thrill, was king g8. We play this move knight f2. No dramatics, but we're just threatening knight g4, takes h6, and we're also threatening rook e7. So the best move the engines could find was h5 to stop knight g4. Because, yeah, if you go rook f7, I go knight g4, knight h6 is a massive threat. So h5, rook e7, and it's just curtains. Yeah, you can take, then I take, and then you can't stop me from queening. So, quite amazing, huh? So that's king h7. So the best move that black has is king h8. And then, yeah, this was what the engines came up with. Knight d2, b5, rook takes c5, f takes c5. Actually, you can do it in a couple of ways here. You can go rook takes g7, takes, rook takes c5. That's probably the easiest, actually. Takes, and queen g6 with perpetual check. King h8, queen h6, king g8, queen g6. The other idea you can do is to go takes, takes, and knight e4. Just keep things going. Queen a5, c3, but then you go rook g7, and then it's black's turn to give perpetual check if he wants to. So yeah, I mean, these lines with knight b2 are very complicated, but to be honest, I'd much rather be white in this. I could much more easily see myself making mistakes as black than as white, really. The other idea is to go b5, which is very reasonable. Rook e1, bishop b7, rook f3, and then this move rook e8. So this is a sort of defensive approach that you know, that engines always do so well. You know, basically, whilst white's getting stuff set up, transferring his pieces, you just attack something of big value, and yeah, you try and do it as soon as possible. And because you're about to win something of big value, the opponent has to go for it all out, maybe before your opponent is ready. You know, and well, here this leads to a draw, but you know, you wait a move, an extra move or something to do something like this, and then you're already losing as black. You know, so rook h3, h6, rook g3, rook e4, and then check and check. Well, check is just a draw there. Doesn't matter what you do, you can't escape. You know, this pawn on d6, stopping the king from getting out here. The pawn on f5, stopping the king from getting out to e6. So yeah. Brilliant, absolutely brilliant. So it looks like Schlechter's, well, after this mistake by von Bardeleben, which you really can't blame him for, taking the bishop, then it looks like Schlechter had a way out. It's quite interesting, actually, having looked at those lines, because you'll see that, you know, Schlechter's line just doesn't quite hit the spot in the same way. So he went rook f4, queen e8 from von Bardeleben, and then knight f6. I mean, this was clearly Schlechter's intention. So I mean, very nice, very nice vision from him. Takes, queen g4 check, king h8 and rook e4, and well, you know, you can really see what he's doing here, right? I mean, you know, it's exactly the same ideas as the engines found, but just, yeah, as always, you know, slightly less efficient implementation. So queen f7, rook e1. And now, actually, what the engines particularly wanted here was to go knight c3. This is a very nice move to meet rook e7 with queen g8, and this is really powerful. Yeah, you know, knight c3. Obviously, you're attacking this rook on e4, so you can't do much. Then you don't give up the queen, and then all you're aiming to do, queen h5, is go knight takes d5 here, and you're going to drive away the rook from the 7th rank. White doesn't have time to play a rook e3 to c3. It's quite hard to spot, actually, to be honest. So yeah, if you go rook e8, then the engines wanted to just go knight f4 here, obviously just chasing the queen away from the protection of the rook on e8. So yeah, it's just absolutely great. And by the way, queen h6 allows queen g2 mate. So yeah, just needed that little precision there at that moment, and von Bardeleben was, I think, heading for clear first in the tournament. Would have been a hell of a result. Yeah, von Bardeleben played d6, and after rook e7 here, again queen g8 was the way to do it. The idea is if you go back to queen h3, you're still going to go this move knight b6, and you're going to try and get in knight takes d5. So that again should just keep you safe. And if you go queen a4, well, I've got bishop f5 then, and I'm completely covered. So again, queen g8, that was it. And it's all about bringing this knight back into play. Von Bardeleben played bishop d7, just giving up the queen. Obviously thinking, I think, two pieces for the and a rook for the queen, surely must just be winning, but it's not at all. I mean, the big problem is for black is that the pieces are quite restricted or offside, and there's weak pawns all over the place. There's stuff for the queen to attack, and I mean, that's the basic point, right? I mean, if you've got a queen against a number of pieces, if you've got loose bits to attack, or if the opponent's king is open, and king's is a little bit open here, the queen's value relative to the pieces, really increases. And Stockfish is an absolute master of this. So I mean, the Engines wanted to go this move queen g3, threatening here, and after knight b6, the surprising queen b3 actually. The idea hitting this knight and the pawn behind it. If you go knight c8, I go queen b7, rook a7, queen b8, and I mean, all these guys are just horrible, really. So the Engines thought here that white would have no problems drawing. Defend this pawn, probably go c4 as well, I guess. Whoops, to defend this pawn. Very strong pawn structure. This bishop blocked in on d7 should be all right. But Schlechter's move was not bad at all. Rook e6, and definitely wins the spectacularity prize. Looking for d6, and the idea is if bishop e6, I take back, and then this knight is hanging. So rook g7 was played by von Bardeleben. Queen h4 takes. And now, well, this nudge of the queen, it's got the rook away from the attack of the pawn with tempo. So the knight can come back into play. Only now the white queen is attacking f6, and now we've got these two pawns rolling down. And it won't surprise you to learn that the Engines just think that this is about even. It's one of these pawns will get sacrificed for the knight, and then, well, the queen's going to have target. It's going to be difficult for the rooks to get going with the king this exposed. So after knight d5, queen b2. That was a decent move. Wasn't the Engine's first choice, but a perfectly reasonable move. They don't see anything wrong with that. Rook f8, queen h4 played. Rook e8, queen f6, and again, the Engines probably want to carry on a little bit as white, the sort of thing. They've got some chances to grab some pawns somewhere with the queen, but I can understand Schlechter and von Bardeleben. They'd probably had enough there. They just sort of manufactured this slightly mysterious draw by repetition. It's not only the modern players who can do it, also the old players as well. And they agreed to draw, but an absolute magnificent game, as you can see. And I mean, I just loved it. I loved I loved Schlechter's decision to sacrifice a piece with knight e4. And I mean, I was very, very interested to see that actually, I mean, really, it's got a lot of merit to it. You need one, quite unusual and difficult to it's difficult to appreciate why it should be necessary. Move f5, and otherwise after knight a4, f5, f6, d6, d6, then actually it's kind of white for choice still, which kind of seems a bit unfair somehow, but it's a really very, very nice game. And I mean, the rest was very, very interesting. And the point to point out as well is that rook f4, Schlechter didn't get the precise way of doing it, but you can see that he saw all of the ideas in the position, which is also pretty impressive somehow. So there we are. Hope you enjoyed that. Hopefully, some of these games are unknown to you, and also giving some pleasure as well. If you enjoyed the video, why not give a like, subscribe to the channel, take a look at my new book, Reengineering the Chess Classics, which is full of discoveries like this. Some discoveries in well-known games, and some simply, lesser-known classic games that are, just simply outstanding and just have to be looked at. And the computer's input and insight as well just makes them even better. So there we are. Thanks very much for watching, and hope to see you at the next videos. Thanks for watching.